Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? I hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, can someone out there please tell me what's going on with this curse on modern vampire movies? Someone, somewhere, doesn't really want us to see them. You had Renfield, start of the year. Nicholas Hoult as Renfield. Nick Cage as Dracula, with that big piranha gob full of teeth. And it was giddy, gory CG excess. Nick Cage was great in it, great value. If anything, he underplayed what we know he could do with the role. But the film was not a success. No. So Universal, smarting from like vampiric debts and like, it should have made filthy lucre. It did not. After already shelving the last Voyage of the Demeter several times for the last 2 years, it then finally gets drip-fed out across the US in about 10 cinemas to lackluster reviews and 0 box office. And it's still a film which, in the UK, you can't legally see it because it's not been released here, and nor will it be theatrically. Entertainment One and Lionsgate are still in this whole litigation, distribution limbo. E1 is being bought from Hasbro by Lionsgate. So I don't think you're going to see this movie in the UK by any official theatrical means. Such a shame. If you're an intrepid vampire hunter like myself, you will have sought it out via other means. I reviewed the movie quite in depth only recently. And although I wasn't its biggest fan, there's elements of it which I really love, and I do applaud a great gothic horror movie in the classical mould being brought out again. And I kind of hoped it would usher in, a lot more. But no, Universal quite clearly don't like their product and have shunned it quite big time. So, Renfield, staked. Last Voyage of Demeter, absolutely staked and nailed into the coffin and then sunk at sea. I should have timed it with those browns. But there's another vampire movie which we may never get to see. Batgirl style. Oh, vampires and bats. Warner Brothers shelving Batgirl indefinitely. We may never get to see that. It's written off, isn't it? There's another remake of Salem's Lot, Stephen King's Salem's Lot. The 1979 TV miniseries, directed by Toby Hooper and produced by Richard Cabritz, is phenomenal. And it ushered in this guy here, Reggie Nolder, playing Kurt Barlow, the Lord Vampire. And in the sleepy town of Salem's Lot, formerly Jerusalem's Lot, Stephen King wrote in the Night Shift collection a short story called Jerusalem's Lot. It's actually got very little to do with Salem's Lot, but the idea of vampires and a cursed town did sort of gestate a little bit in his cocaine-addled brain, and King came out with his classic novel Salem's Lot. That was then adapted, as I say, by Toby Hooper and Richard Cabritz, and as a TV movie, because they tried to make a movie out of it right from the word go, but condensing down with a Stephen King tome that's at least that thick, with about 10,000 words per page, and it's all bloody dialogue, you know what King's like. And to try and condense that down to make a movie wasn't going to work. So they hit upon the bright idea, well, let's do it as a TV miniseries. It'll be a 3-hour show, just over 3 hours. So 2 1.5-hour episodes, and we'll bring in a big name director of horror to really galvanise audiences. Now, Cabritz had already worked with John Carpenter because he so admired Halloween. He brought John Carpenter, a great independent movie maker on the big screen, to do a TV movie called Someone's Watching Me with Lauren Hutton, and it's a great movie. And Carpenter, of course, repaid the favour by naming one of his characters in The Fog Mrs. Cabritz, after Richard Cabritz. And I think the two of them worked together on Christine as well. But Kubrick thought, if you can hear some howling noises, that's the Huskies now had their tea, and she's like expressing her gratitude to the world by howling in the northern wing of Kilt Mansion. Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make, yeah. So he brings in another notorious director, Tobe Hooper from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And everyone's like, well, in fact, pretty much everybody who is anybody in the movies and TV studio industry at that stage were going like, who's he? They'd kind of forgotten the notoriety of this guy and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was a good thing, because if they remembered it, they were going like, no, this is for TV, remember. We want no chainsaws, forgetting that there's no gore at all, or hardly any, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there is hardly any in his version of Salem's Lot. But his version of Salem's Lot has this guy, Reggie Nolder. Yes, the burned, scarred, harried-faced villain of many movies. He had been in The Man Who Knew Too Much for Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock actually remaking one of his earlier movies. Slightly modified script, but still the same story. He was also in The Bird with the Crystal Plumage for Dario Argento as another sinister assassin in that. And he's in Mark of the Devil, Parts 1 and 2. And he's in Star Trek and many other TV shows. And he was a face you don't quickly forget. He's also very aptly enough in Zoltan, Hound of Dracula, where he plays the... he's not a vampire, is he? He's Dracula's minion that looks after the vampirized Doberman, which will vampirize other German shepherds in the movie. It's a cult classic. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. It's well worth it. It's as daft as they come, but our mate Reggie's in there as well. Reggie was born in Austria, and he gave 3 different excuses as to why his face was horribly burned. He was a good-looking guy to begin with, and he was in other movies way earlier on. Well, this is another bone of contention. No one knows exactly when he was born or how old he was when he died, because he lied about that, and then suddenly images and stuff, information, documentation appeared that he was actually a lot older than he made that he was. But with a face like that, you probably couldn't tell anyway. But he was a good presence and a great character actor. And as Kurt Barlow, the Lord of the Undead in Salem's Lot, with James Mason as Straker, his human minion, his human guide that look after the Marston house. They were an essential double act. James Mason was terrifying in the movie, but when we got to meet this rodent-faced bastard, who of course they clearly modelled his look upon Nosferatu, Max Schreck as Count Graf Orlok in the unofficial, i.e. rip-off of Dracula by F.W. Murnau in 1922. A classic, we all love it, of course. But that's where they get the look from. And man, I love that look. I look that love, I almost said there. But I've been drinking, so I've got an excuse. Which reminds me, cheers you all. And he's got no dialogue in Salem's Lot. In the novel of Salem's Lot, you have Barlow does speak, and he's quite vernacular. And people didn't like Toby Hooper's version because, well, he made him into this big monster thing. But my God, what a terrifying monster thing. He is genuinely frightening. Look at him with those feral, blazing yellow and red ringed eyes, and that cadaverous blue painted face, the pointy ears, the rodent teeth, the big cape, the massive long claws, clocking people's heads together, suddenly appearing in the frame. Oh, God. The stuff of nightmares. If I was to compile a list of all my favourite vampires, he would top it. He'd be number one. Number one. I've done lists on the best Draculas, and I've done lists on the best zombies. I probably haven't done one, although I should do, on the best werewolves. Someone remind me to do that. Maybe I already have. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, spoiler alert, he's number one when it comes to scary vampires. He's awesome. But he doesn't talk in it, and he's meant to talk in it. Now, as much as all of us mega fans love Toby Hooper's version, there's been other versions of it as well. In 1987, the great Larry Cohen did return to Salem's Lot with his favourite star, Michael Moriarty, and it was an absolutely ham-fisted pile of old crap. It was awful. It was so amateurish and so badly produced, directed and put together that it was a shambles. And it has nothing to do with the original Salem's Lot story. It's basically a return. And he even had Reggie Nolder in that pose, like that, like this, that you see here, as Barlow on the main poster. He's not in it, but another bunch of vampires are. You've got, yes, this guy and his son return to Salem's Lot. I think the town of his birth, the father, played by Michael Moriarty, and they discover the entire place is run by vampires. But they've been living there since the Pilgrim Fathers moved from Europe to America, the New World, the Promised Land, and they went with them basically and formed their own colony there, and they've been living there under the radar. But a few killings take place, but it's really, really inept and so bad. And I love Larry Cohen stuff, and this is a huge misstep for him. Then you got the Rob Lowe Ruka Howe version in 2004, 2003, something like that. And that was a TV series, lasted one season. I don't know how many episodes it was, but that was boring, very boring. Ruka Howe, how can you make Ruka Howe boring? But he plays Barlow, yes, this guy. But they adhere back to Stephen King's original novel, so Barlow speaks. Too much, if you ask me. Now, I know the King purists probably, his book, The Shining, is better than Kubrick's version. Certainly Stephen King thinks that. I do not believe that. I love Stephen King, but I gave up on Stephen King round about when the Tommyknockers, probably even before that. The last great thing he did was Cycle the Werewolf. The rest, it's just, and this is coming from me, he loves the sound of his own voice, but he writes it all down. And it's just boring, get rid of it. Had enough. Too much backstory, too much waffle, too much. He loves creating characters, people that live and breathe, of course, but you try to, condense it down a wee bit if you don't mind. And so I prefer Kubrick's version of The Shining to the book version of The Shining for many different reasons, which I've gone into before in the past, so I'm not going to bog it down here. Stephen King would, of course. And I prefer Salem's Lot, the film, Toby Hooper's version, to the book, Salem's Lot, which I don't find that exciting or that scary at all. Great concept, but, writer, it's always a writer, isn't it? Goes back to his hometown to get inspiration for his new book, but there's the Marston house, which terrified him. And then you've got vampires moving in and laying waste to the town. People are dropping dead and coming back from the grave, left, right, and indeed centre. But great concept. It's the execution. I got bored reading that book, and you shouldn't be bored reading a book. Now, so the Rob Lowe version with Ruka Howe, and I forget who else was in that now, but Ruka Howe plays Barlow and he speaks, and Ruka Howe was at this curious point in his life where he was kind of like up his own arse. We all know and love him. I've done obituary for him, I've reviewed his movies a load of times. I always wax lyrical about him. I think he's a fabulous actor and a great persona, but he did screw this one up, and he didn't bother learning his lines for it. Maybe he was, he shouldn't speak. Well, you can't even give him that excuse. What he tried to do was reword his own dialogue. No, he wouldn't say this. So his big monologue at the end to Rob Lowe, teasing him, yeah, you're gonna come and kill me. How can you kill me? Because and he wrote his own version of this great big, several page long diatribe about how powerful he is and all that. And he turned it into like a wistful, I'm a cowboy hero from the past. What are you doing? And then it became painfully clear when he said, look, no, you can't use that dialogue. That doesn't work. So do the lines that you've been given in the script. Okay, Ruka, are we okay with this? Okay, everybody, places, and action. Didn't know his words because he hadn't bothered to read them. So they had to give him cue cards to read his fucking lines. Oh, Ruka, you old hound dog, you rebellious maverick. But the film isn't, the TV show isn't very good. And I think this is the problem with Salem's Lot. If you adhere too faithfully to Stephen King's original book, you're going to bog it down with just too much dialogue, and you're going to rob it of a lot of its real sense of dread and fear and doom. A town being slowly taken over, succumbing to the bite of a vampire clan that's taken the place over, which is wonderful. But you give, again, I may be biased towards that version, but that was created for the Toby Hooper version, which I think would be hard to surpass. But anyway, we move on. We've had several versions of it now, and then we have this new version. I say new, it was made 2 years ago, like the last Voyage of the Demeter. It's been sitting there on the shelf. It had an original release date of, I think it was September 2022. And you in America, the weekend after Labor Day. I'm in the UK. I don't even know what Labor Day is. No idea. It sounds like too much hard work though. It was due for that weekend after Labor Day, which apparently is a big, massive slot to get your movies in there. And then it's Warner's who's doing this. Not Universal, it's Warner's. And they went, no, we're going to move it. So it's now going to go to April 2023. April just gone. Now, it then got, no, we're not going to release it in April. We're going to release Evil Dead Rise instead. I've reviewed that as well. Which came up around the same sort of time as Renfield, if I remember rightly. And, well, okay, yeah, well, look up, we've got Evil Dead Rise, yeah, so all the fans like, well, yeah, Salem's Lot, yeah, you've done a trailer, we know you've done test screenings. The test screenings, I've read various reports on this. Some say it worked brilliantly, some say it worked very badly, and, we demand reshoots. This is just Joe Public who's been to test screenings. Now, then the film has disappeared from the entire slate. They replaced it with Evil Dead Rise, and it's not showing up on any Warner Brothers release schedule for the rest of this year, which means it won't be coming out. Where we are right now, the date we are now, which is August the 23rd, 2023. It's not going to come out in the fall. It's not going to come out in time for Halloween, which would be ideal. There's no way on earth it's going to come out in time for that now. They've got a packed schedule, so they've clearly just, vampires, just don't cut it anymore, do they? In fact, vampires suck. So they've just, ousted it from the release schedule and put it in their own little coffin in the vaults of Warner Brothers. So, where do we stand with this movie now? Let's go through what we know already. And I'll have to go and refer to my little notes, of course. This is directed by Gary Doberman, or Doberman. But let's go back to Zoltan, Hound of Dracula, which was a Doberman. So we'll call him Gary Doberman. This is the guy that wrote Annabelle and The Nun and It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. So you think credentials, they're pretty good. Annabelle? Any good? I don't think so. The Nun, no one thought so. Come on now. It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Stephen King again. Yeah, actually, elements of both I loved, but I didn't overall love each version, each installment. Effects were better. Skarsgård as Pennywise, although I still love Tim Curry as Pennywise, I'll be perfectly honest. Although these chapters, his version was infinitely better than that bloody TV adaptation, which Pennywise made it, Tim Curry made it, but the rest of the bloody cast, a load of shite, and woeful stuff, to be honest. It weren't Salem's Lot, put it that way. But, so he's done those. So yeah, you think, well, you definitely know your stuff. And was it James Wan was going to be, I think he was meant to be directing it to begin with, then he got replaced with, well, Gary Doberman. How quickly did I forget his name? That doesn't bode well, does it? Maybe I should be working for Warner Brothers, because I'd have vetoed this within 5 seconds of them pitching it. What? Another version of what again? Oh, Salem's Lot. Oh, Toby Hooper's version's fantastic. Oh, what are you here for again? Oh, you're pitching a version of... Oh, Salem's Lot. We were just talking about that. Get out! You have Lewis Pullman playing Ben Mears. Ben Mears is the David Soul character, of course, the writer going back to Salem's Lot. You have Spencer Treat Clark, who was Lucius in Gladiator, playing Mike Ryerson, who's the young lad who becomes the younger vampire slayer. His mum and dad are killed. Everyone's killed around him. His friends are killed, and they come back scratching at the window, and they're floating. Oh my God! How you could ever top those scenes with the Glick boys coming at the window and scratching at it? No way on earth. I don't care who takes the directorial reins of a film adaptation of this now. God, I'm struggling to even say the words now, because I just know it can't happen. You can't top Toby Hooper's direction of those scenes and those effects with those glowing eyes and the big reverse photography, floating stuff as the windows open and they come floating in the mist as well. Oh God! Who else have you got? You've got what's his name? Pillow Asbake as Straker. Now you've seen him. He's in Overlord and Game of Thrones. Mackenzie Lee playing Susan Norton. Susan Norton, who was played by Bonnie Bedelia in the original Toby Hooper version. Bonnie Bedelia. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. And of course she was in Die Hard. She was Holly McClane. And fantastic she is. She was also in another Stephen King adaptation, Needful Things. And yeah. And you've got William Sadler from Die Hard 2, Bonnie Bedelia from Die Hard and Die Hard 2, and you've got William Sadler from Die Hard 2, and also he played Death in Bill and Ted. So he's not averse to having his head shaved and wearing very pallid makeup and being very demonic and scary and eerie. They haven't said he's playing I guess he's Nosferatu. They haven't said he's playing Barlow, but clearly he is. I mean, he's got to be. He's got to be, because in all the cast listings, it has like William Sadler ? And there's no one else listed as being Barlow, so it's got to be him. But Barlow, in this version, apparently Barlow's going to speak. It's going to adhere back to Stephen King's original novel. So therein lies my problem, because I want a remake with better effects and crazy stuff and sheer eeriness and a bit gore. It's got an R rating. You won't get to see it at the big screen by the looks of things. It could be shelved forevermore, but it's got an R rating for bloody imagery and gore and bad language as well. So it's been rated already. So who else have we got? That's all I wrote down. But the film is on for 113 minutes. Now, this smacks again of why they didn't do Salem's Lot as an original movie to begin with. When they first were trying to adapt King's novel, and they had numerous scripts and numerous directors attached to it, And for a good few years, this was passing from table to table around the Hollywood committee rooms. And no one was biting because how can we budget for this? How can you cut all that out and then still make a coherent movie? It can't work, which is why they did a 2-episode mini-series lasting just over 3 hours. The perfect way of doing it. This is 113 minutes. So quite clearly, you might be trying to say, oh, we're going to be more faithful to it. But how can you be? You're gonna be jettisoning absolutely shitloads of what King wrote. You can't do it. You can't condense it to 113 minutes. You just can't. Funnily enough, they did condense the original Toby Hooper 2-parter into a theatrical version, which ran about 105 minutes, so lost a lot of stuff and didn't work as a consequence. And that was the first home video version that came out. Of course, now you can get it on Blu-ray and all that, so yeah, the full Salem's Lot is out there, the 79 version, the one I recommend. And they said it's full of jump scares as well. Well, that's what you get when you hire the writer who's going to become a director from Annabelle and The Nun, and it's chapters 1 and 2. You're going to get jump scares. I love jump scares. Don't thrust a stake into my critical heart. No, I love them. But we've seen that many, and the Conjuring, first Conjuring's outstanding. The second Conjuring was a travesty. Oh, I know, big, mega success, and everyone loved it, but I did not love it. I thought it paled into massive insignificance compared to the first one, which I truly adore. And then you got the Annabelle movies, oh Christ, and then God, shite and tripe. And just, it's juvenile filmmaking. It's just, box ticking, jump scare here, we'll have a false scare now, jump scare here, false scare now, then jump scare. Shut up. Just tell a proper story. Have us invest in characters and then provide the jolts, the frisson, the slow build of tension and horror. Everything works if done correctly. You can have a non-stop jump-a-thon. Look at the Evil Dead. Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are exactly that, with loads of gore and effects and slapstick and weirdness, and yet they work. It's how it's done. So, but 113 minutes full of jump scares, Salem's Lot adaptation, does not sound like it could be really remotely faithful. And if you're going to have Barlow as being someone who's not looking like that, who's urbane and talkative, seductive and sinister, well, that's Dracula. That's how that works. That's been done a million times over. Let's have him back as this brute. What else did I write? Oh yeah, there is another version as well. Well, sort of version of Salem's Lot. It's based on that original short story he wrote in the Night Shift collection called Jerusalem's Lot, and it's called Chapel White or Chapel Wait with Adrian Big Nose Brody, and it's set 200 years before, so it's not Pilgrim Fathers, but it's very rural, and you've got a little mining town, but it's kind of full of the undead. Well, only in the second 5 episodes of a 10-episode season 1 do you actually get the vampire action. But it's a slow burn, painfully slow in the first 5 episodes, but it's dripping with atmosphere and gothic, shadows, cobwebs and worms. Lots and lots of worms. But it's set in what is inspired by Stephen King's original short story of Jerusalem's Lot. And I like it, actually. I actually quite really was taken with it. I love the slow burn, and I love the sudden, halfway through the season 1, the sudden swing shift into like throat slittings and burnings and beheadings and stuff. Yeah, and it worked, and it does conclude, although apparently I heard in only the last few days that it's been greenlit for a season 2. Oh, there you go. So apparently there is some faith in vampires, for they are vampires in this settlement community, secluded, haunted hamlet. Cheers, y'all. But you can see how it's inspired by Salem's Lot altogether. But folks, what's going on? What is going on with this big screen version? Now I know I've just said, I don't particularly like the guy that's directing it, and I don't like the fact it's 113 minutes and it's full of jump scares. It sounds like it's, even though it's an R rating, it sounds like it's watered down for, the multiplex crowd. Oh, popcorn flying everywhere. Oh, I've missed that bit again because I'm on my mobile phone, or cell phone for those across the pond. But it seems to be aiming for that kind of market when the original material is not like that. It's far more character based. But and you cared when someone was vampirized. Jeffrey Lewis in the first one, who's the gravedigger. Jeffrey Lewis, who's in so many Clint Eastwood movies as a Clint foil. He's one of his mates, or High Plains Drifter. He's one of the bad guys. He's also in Tango and Cash as well. He's a great actor. Well, when he gets vampirized and the poor old guy goes, he hears his rocking chair upstairs rocking back and forth, and he goes up and he's having a heart attack. God, I'm shivering talking about it. And he opens the door and there's Jeffrey Lewis in the chair, just rocking back and forth, all grey and blue with these feral glowing eyes, and he's looking dead ahead. And then suddenly he looks up at this old guy, at us, at the camera. Oh God, but the cross comes out and he leaps out the window. Oh, Jesus Christ. He is terrifying. But it's the jump scare. Oh, see, jump scares with Barlow work in the course of a 3-hour story, a 3-hour rendition. Those scares are earned in the cell. Where the cell door gets opened by these ghastly long clawed fingers, and the door opens and the guy leans up like that, and then suddenly Barlow just goes They work. You don't expect them on a TV miniseries. You don't expect it. They're fucking jolts. Awesome. Jeffrey Lewis in the grave when, is it Danny Glick? One of the Glick boys suddenly wakes up right in front of him as he's got into the grave, and the sky above him suddenly turns stormy. It's filmed really well. And he's like that, looking up at these storm clouds coming over, and then looks back down, and the kid leaps up. Whoa! You jump out of your own bones. And obviously the kitchen sequence, forever one of my favourites. And again, Toby Hooper had done Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And after this, he would do Funhouse, and he would go on to, of course, Poltergeist. Although he was clearly looking over the shoulder of Steven Spielberg at the time. And Spielberg would say, action! And he'd go, action! Spielberg would say, cut! And he'd go, cut! Yeah, we know. But there are trademarks of Tobe Hooper from Texas Chainsaw Massacre through Eaten Alive, of course, Funhouse, this, Salem's Lot, Funhouse, and of course Poltergeist. And there is the sequence in the kitchen. It's Mark's kitchen, his mum and dad, and the priest is there, and they're all discussing all the shit that's happening, and the fact that Mark thinks he's seeing one of the Glick boys at his window, and you're just having dreams, you're grieving and all this kind of crap, and suddenly the light starts blinking out. Things start rattling round, the kitchen cupboards the doors start opening and closing, cups and glasses and cutlery are flying everywhere, the table starts lifting, it's pure poltergeist, and then you get the cape on the floor. Oh God. Oh shit. It is so grievously cardiac arrest inducing, and the cape just rises, and they're all going and when you're a kid, you're thinking, God, that's the size of Chewbacca, with Darth Vader sitting on his hairy shoulders. It's up there. And then suddenly, it's our boy, Jesus Christ. And he knocks Mark's mum and dad's heads together, like that, and kills the poor bastards. And then James Mason, the Straker, appears in the doorway with that mellifluous, suave, sophisticated, yet very sinister and debonair voice of his, like, back priest, back shaman, back holy man. Your faith against his faith. Put the cross down. Your faith against the masters. Face the master. It's just, and you're like, oh my God, because he's so urbane and nice. The problem is that in the original bloody book, Barlow's meant to be quite similar to that as well. And Straker's a bit of a fat, baldy bastard, you know, and a bit of a, I don't know, a juggernaut type of character. Although he has got powers, because he does pick up David Soul's mate Ben Mears, his old teacher. He picks him up like in the Marston house and just walks with him like that and impales him on all the antlers on the wall. Oh, God, so he has got powers as well. Salem's Lot, folks, 1979 style, is absolutely friggin' awesome. It was shown over 2 nights in the UK, and I remember being in the school playground and like all we were doing was talking about the shocks and the scares and like, wow, the night before, and we couldn't wait to watch the next episode. Whoa, it was fantastic. And you're hearing the phenomenal score by the horribly named Harry Suckman. Harry Suckman did Bonanza and the High Chaparral scores as well. And he had done a couple of like sci-fi movies, Zog and Riders to the Stars. But very classically trained. Toby Hooper and Richard Cabritz wanted Bernard Herrmann to have done this, but of course Bernard Herrmann had died by this stage. So they thought, no, I gotta get someone similar, someone who might have known Bernard Herrmann and could do something. And the curious thing is that Suckman's main theme to this is, I've said this before many times, and you guys already know, you're ahead of me now. His main theme to this, which is fabulous, is very, very reminiscent and very clearly inspired by a certain piece in Bernard Herrmann's score for The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which I've played many times. But listen to this anyway. And I think it's uncomfortably close, but it's still a great theme. I'll play it in a second. Cheers, y'all. Wow, wow, wow. So let's go to the main theme. And even that, I've just realised, boom, is similar to Bernard Herrmann's The Day the Air Stood Still. But here you go, it's the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad now. Not the main theme to Seventh Voyage, but where Sinbad's fighting the skeleton. It's a blistering sort of xylophone, bone jangling charge. And it's an alarming main theme. You don't get this in the actual show itself, either episode. Only at the beginning and at the end of each episode. The rest of it's all, apart from the source music, which is very jazzy interludes, it's all sweeping strings and weary xylophones and glockenspiels and bizarre sort of tension-building moments of real frisson. But this, the ba-ba-ba-bam, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that's clearly ended. Let's go to that's the opening theme. Let's go to the end theme. End credits, number 1. Come on. That's the wrong bloody thing. So remember this. Reggie Nolde, by the way, was in 2 porn movies as well. Although he didn't disrobe. He played a different character. He's actually in Dracula Sucks with John Holmes. So yeah, there's a definite theme. You know, there's a lot of connections amongst this. Right, so you've heard that jaunty bounce and the xylophone do, the bony jangle. So let's go to come on now, 7 Voyages Sinbad, and let's get I've got to get to the piece. Okay, there's more xylophones going here, but that main very similar. Don't go going, oh, that's tenuous. No. Every time I hit this, I think of Salem's Lot. And every time I hit the Salem's Lot main theme, I think of this. Yeah, there's far more bone jangling here, but then you get... Come on. Come. That is the main theme to Salem's Lot. I'm not wrong. Okay, so if we go back... No. Because I'm going to see if I can find the other similarity I just said about the wah. Oh, it's here somewhere. There's a little voice in my head now going, don't push your luck, Kilt-Man. Remember that. Okay. And that's the skeleton fight. Okay. Now, that boom! I'm going to see if I can find that now. On the day the air stood still. Oh, no way on earth. I haven't got it on the system. I must have. No, I simply must have. It might be under Bernard Herrmann. Bernard Herrmann's DDS are still. Sometimes that's how they get listed under the actual composer's name. Oh, do not make a liar out of me. Bernard Herrmann, Cape Fear. Bernard Herrmann, Chasing the Argonauts. Bernard Herrmann, Twilight Zone. Oh, shit. I'll do a research. Folks, if I'm keeping it, just, you know, go on, have your tea, do your own thing, whatever. The day. I've got it. It is here. Bloody hell. This is the theremin. The same year, 1951, that Dimitri Tiomkin used the theremin to score The Thing from Another World for Christian Nyby and Howard Hawks. This is Bernard Herrmann for Robert Wise's The Day the Air Stood Still. But did you hear that though? I'm clutching here, aren't I? I really am clutching here. Let's go back to Salem's Lot again. Get that bit. It is, but it's not a theremin. It's the orchestra doing it, but it's the same thing. Huge crescendo, plateau out. Well, folks. Well, we'll end with Salem's Lot, of course. Cheers, y'all. Cheers, Reggie. Cheers, Nosferatu in the corner over there. And Nosferatu's behind me there somewhere. I think maybe you can see him. Maybe you can't in the shadows. So folks, sometimes I do these videos about things which are, oh, we've been denied this, and I do it in the hope that by the time it uploads, news has come out, oh, it's now been released, it's out there. If I can actually, by some quirk of fate, bring about the release of the new Salem's Lot, then my God, you know, much kudos to me. But no, I want to see this movie. 113 minutes, an R rating, lots of jump scares. Sounds like the kind of thing you want, but with the subject material itself, it's weightier than that. It's more character based than that. How are you cutting these corners? You must be excising characters and certainly a lot of stuff, and you must have readapted things so it's a lot faster paced, probably packing in more incidents. So I don't know. But we've had such failures now with the vampire movies that are coming out of being made modern times that, I don't know, studios seem to have lost faith. Your faith against his faith. God. He's in Europe on a buying trip. James Mason's fantastic. I really wish I could do his voice. It'd be great. I'd love to go to the bar like, 2 whiskies, large please. No, I can't do it at all now. But James Mason's magnificent in this, and you know when you see David Soul, like he wants to go near the old haunted house, the Marston house on the hill, which by the way they filmed most of it in, like, I think it was Northern California, but it looks like Maine. You know, it's got that kind of look to it. And but the house on the hill, which is the Marston house, well, there wasn't one there, so they had to go and bloody build a facade, and the inside's on a studio set. But they had to build the facade. But it looks amazing. You know, the Bates mother's house on the hill, eat your heart out. This one's even more frightening. But when Ben Mears, David Soul, is like walking, he's driven to the house, and he's been seeing Straker in his suit and all that, in his whatever, that Cadillac or whatever it is, driving around. He's kind of giving him a bit of evils, and he's outside the main drive, below the hill to the house, and Straker comes driving down and it's like, keep your eyes on the road, James, you know. But there's a very sinister undercurrent to the whole thing. You know who's good, who's bad in this. But it doesn't matter, because you've got that bastard to back anything up. And Reggie Nolden nails it. Fucking nails this movie. He's outstanding. And you're not going to get... You won't get people like that now. You just don't get people who are not ashamed of any disfigurement or scarring. In fact, they'll exploit it. But back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, you'd have people that would, what? Yeah, I've got a really vicious scar. My face is cleaved in two. So I'll play Harvey Dent. I'll play Harvey Two-Face. Don't worry. No makeup necessary. So you just paint him fucking blue and put in those feral contact lenses. I'll give him some dentures as well. But basically, that's his face. That's how he looks. But he's great though, and he appreciated the fact that, okay, look, I can't play a leading man now. I can't play the romantic hero. But so what? I can still play bloody great villains. There's cruel eyes as well, and those cheeks are just. Peter Cushing had the gaunt face, and his cheeks were like just literally chiseled into, so gaunt. But even Peter Cushing looks like, you know, a big chubby faced bastard compared to this guy. That's the thing about special effects, makeup. You know, like all the maestros, Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, Dick Smith, got everybody. So, like, you know, look, you know, when you're gonna make people scarred, the problem is if you can cut away fake skin. You can slap makeup on someone's face and then cut into it, but the very act of slapping makeup on someone's face makes their face bigger. So you need someone who's got a really thin face to put it on and then cut into it to give the impression, especially for zombies or vampires or whatever, or someone who's meant to have a shotgun blast to the side of the face. How are you going to do it with someone who's got like me, a chubby-cheeked, jowly bastard like me? They couldn't do it, could they? To put the makeup on me, my face would be out like there, something like that. I don't know. Folks, anyway, Salem's Lot, please comment below, let me know what you think about the original novel, the 79 miniseries, Larry Cohen's ill-fated, ill-conceived and rather naff return to Salem's Lot. The 2003-2004, I forget when it was, with Rob Lowe and Ruka Howe version. I'm sure it's got its fans somewhere. Funnily enough, Ruka Howe would go from playing Barlow to playing Van Helsing for Dario Argento in Dracula 3D. Oh, Dario, Dario, Dario. How low can you go? Well, Dario Argento could actually sink even lower. He's made worse films than that. He's also made some of the best horror movies ever made. How do people rise so high and then drop so swiftly? It's terrible. And yet not see it, not see, you know, where they've gone wrong and learn from it. Anyway, folks, I have been on with Shelby Kilt-Man, so please let me know, as I say, your thoughts on Salem's Lot book, mini shows, mini TV shows, and the movie versions. And do you want to see this version? Should we get a petition together to, you know, lambast Warner Brothers? For God's sake, bring this movie out. We want to see it. It's been a turbulent year for vampires. Renfield, as I say. Garish fun, but forgettable and maybe lamentable in many departments. Last Voyage of the Demeter looked incredible. Great performances. I like the Dracula's a feral beast for the entire time, but it squanders every scene of suspense and tension. I did go on at length about this, so you know you have to go back and look at that review. I don't want to spoil things in this review for it in case you haven't seen it, but I was ultimately very disappointed with that. But I still applaud the fact it got made and it eventually got out there somewhere. But clearly, I'm one of very few people that applaud the fact it got out there when its own makers, its own distributors can't stand the sight of it, and Universal themselves sank it almost without trace, even in areas where it can be shown theatrically. No faith. You've got no faith in your own product. Your faith against the filmmaker's faith. Oh, God. A track entitled Lovely Susan, Susan Norton, played by Bonnie Bedelia. Oh! Bonnie Bedelia and Susan Norton from Salem's Lot. Our good friend and Super Channel contributor from the Emerald Isle. You know him, you love him, it's Captain Ronnie. Sent me a library card. Oh, you probably can't see that because of this bloody light. It's a library card from Jerusalem's Lot Public Library, Cumberland County, Maine. Each borrower is held responsible for all material drawn on his card and for all fines incurred on it. Expires 9/28/75, which is, of course, is the date when Salem's Lot, Stephen King's book, was released, was published. Present this card when borrowing books, and it's for a certain Miss Susan Norton. Oh, you can't see it, can you? Oh, that bloody, yeah. Yeah, in the darkness you can probably actually see that. There you go. And in the actual library card holder, she'd drawn Dracula. Hey! That's here somewhere. There's a Dracula, that's their library card holder and the book that she's drawn out. Fantastic stuff. Cheers, Ronnie, and cheers you all, and please live long and prosper. Vampires, oh God, look, they're all suckers. You know, you can take them, don't worry about it. You know, you can nail them down, you can stake them down. Yeah, it's werewolves you've got to worry about. Werewolves. So anyway, folks, in the meantime, in this ever, where do these vampire films go? Do they get buried underground and facing down so that you've got to tunnel through to China? If China gets a fucking release of Salem's Lot, I will go through the bloody roof. I know. But what happens to these movies? Where did they go? Why did it get shelved? Batgirl got shelved as well. Indefinitely. You'll never see it. It's a tax write-off now, Batgirl. Bloody well made the movie. Did everything. I wasn't asked about the movie, but people have put their time and effort. They've acted, they've performed, they've composed musical scores, they've done special effects and stunts, they've written the script, they've done everything. They've hammered together, all the sets and done all the visual effects, and then they just go like, oh, Warner's just go, screw it. Not asked about it. No, it's missed its schedule, and we've got too many conflicting sort of stuff going on now. We're changing heads of departments and all that kind of crap. So, we don't need it anymore. Nah, who cares? All the last sort of, I don't know how long it takes to make one of these movies. Maybe like there's like 2-3 months of actual physical shooting, and then you've got all the post-production that goes on, which goes on for maybe another year, getting the visual effects sorted out. And then it goes, you know what? We don't want it anymore. Sorry. See you next time. Loving your work though. Fuck you. You'd be furious, wouldn't you? Anyway, folks, I couldn't find my whiskey then. I think we're not done with vampires yet. Do you know why? Because I'm looking at the huge poster there for Fright Night. Fright Night is just over there. And I think I did promise to do like a big review of Fright Night, or maybe even a commentary track. Who knows? Something to get your teeth into, isn't it? Cheers, y'all. And thanks for sticking around anyway. This was only meant to be like a very sort of, oh, what's happened to Salem's Lot? The new version. But we encompassed every friggin' version going. Yeah, I did the new TV show, didn't I? The one based on Jerusalem's Lot. Yeah, which I've not. Chapel White. Yeah, I did cover that, didn't I? I did, didn't I? I did. Yeah, I did. Right. Gonna see you all later.